Okay, so this video is going to be about parts of circle. This is one of my favorite parts of geometry. I love working with circles. I don't know, it's so neat to me how things work together. And basically we're just going to focus on the vocab. It's going to be a very short video because what I'm going to need you to do for a large part of it is to pause and write down what I have right here in red. There's a lot of writing and I didn't want you to have to decipher my handwriting on the screen, and so I typed pretty much all of it. And so what I want you to do right now is actually go ahead and pause it. I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and I want you to pause and copy. Okay, you should be back now. One thing that I want to make sure that we focus on a lot on this is that all the relationships in a circle come from the very definition of a circle. So we need to make sure we know what that definition is. And so the definition of a circle I have right up here at the top, and it is a set of points that's equidistant from the same point. So if I have some random point and I want to measure, I don't know, let's say I would choose 5. Here's my random point, and I measure 5 inches out from that point in every direction. That's going to give me a circle. That's how we get the circle. And that point, of course, is called the center. Okay, and from that, we're able to get all these other pieces of the definition here. Okay. All right. So let's look at each one of these definitions that you wrote down, and some of them will be new, and some of them will not. And we're going to label them on our picture here. And so that's the part where I'm going to get to write on the screen. So, okay. We'll start off with the radius. That's one you should know. And we know the radius is going to go from the center to any point on the circle. When you do this circle, you always have to put a circle with a dot in the middle. So you have to show the center there. Okay. So we're going to go and draw in a radius, and I'm going to go straight from the center straight down, stopping on my circle. Okay, and so that's my radius. Let's go ahead and give our center a name. We'll call this center point C, and that's also how circles are named. So this will be circle C. We name them by their center. Okay. And this point right here, we'll call it A. So in this case, we're saying that AC is a radius. Okay, so we're going to write off here to the side of this. My example of a radius is AC. Okay, the next one on our list might be new to you, and you may have seen it before, and that's a chord. And a chord is also a segment. It's going to connect points that are on the circle. So let's go ahead and add that in there. Points that are on my circle. And so I can connect any 2 points that I want. Okay? And we're going to go and let's connect from about here all the way to there. Okay? We'll give those 2 points some names. AC is not a chord because it doesn't go all the way to the other edge of the circle. But this next thing on our list is a chord, and that's a diameter. And that's not a new word. You've known diameter for a long time. A diameter passes through the center, but it is a chord. So its definition really is, it is the longest chord. The furthest distance I can go from one point on my circle to another point on my circle, which is what makes a chord, would be to go right through the middle. And so let's draw in a diameter. The longest chord I can possibly have. Okay. All right, let's give it a name. We'll call it JK. Okay, and so my diameter in this case is JK, and hopefully your handwriting is a lot better than mine. Well, it's getting better, huh? And so far, these are all line segments. I want you to notice that. They all stop when they reach the circle. Okay? They all have a starting point. They all have a stopping point. And we're going to get down below in just a little bit to some that are not line segments. All right, the next thing on your list is the circumference, and the circumference is the distance around the circle. If we were to draw it on here, we would highlight the entire circle all the way around. You see it in word problems a lot when I'm dealing like with a tire, and it's going around. My tire went 10 revolutions, and so then you're dealing with 10 circumferences, and so that's what circumference is. Again, that's not new to you. It's the distance around the circle. And I've put in there the two formulas for circumference. They're on your formula chart, and you probably know them. But it's C is equal to, circumference is equal to 2 pi r, or it's equal to pi d. And I want you to notice the pieces that are different. This is 2 r. One of them has 2 r, 2 radiuses, while the other one has the diameter, which is just good math. Okay, 2 radiuses is equal to 1 diameter. All right, the next two words on our list are actually lines, not line segments. So they're going to go through our circle. The first one passes through the circle, actually. And it can go through at any point. I could take my diameter and I just extend it and make it stick outside the circle. That would be a secant. I'm going to put it in a completely different one. But I'm going to use two of the points we already have. I'm going to use K and B. Again. I'm going to go from K to B. Now, if I stopped at K and B, then that would be a chord. But I'm going to keep going through B, and I'm going to keep going through K, and just pretend that's all one line. Okay. And that makes it a secant. And I'm going to go ahead and put the little arrows on here to show that it's a line and not a line segment. So part of that secant is a chord, the piece in the middle between B and K, but the whole thing itself is not. Okay, so my secant here is actually B, K. But we need to make sure we use the line. Alright, the next one is a tangent, and we've heard that word before when we did trig. But this is a different use of the word tangent, and the tangent is a line that goes, it's a line that touches the circle at only one point. So let's go ahead and fill in the blank here with a circle. It's a line that touches the circle at only one point. Well, what that means is that it's kind of like the circle is sitting on it, because we know if it goes in, it's got to come out. Because it's a line, it's going to keep going, right? And so what this winds up looking like is it kind of looks like the circle is just sitting on that line. Let me show you what I mean. Uh-oh. Okay, because see, if this is my line, and I want it to touch the circle only one time, I got to get it really, really close. And it might look like it shares a bunch of points on here, but if I did that right, there should really only be one point there where they touch. And I'm going to color in that point. Kind of make a dot there. Okay. That point has a special name. It is the point of tangency. By the way, if this is a line, we need to make sure we go ahead and put our arrows at the ends of it. So there's one arrow there. There's one over there. And we'll just give ourselves one more point over here so we can name it. Okay, so our tangent line then is line XY. That point Y there, is called the point of tangency. Last year I had a lot of kids that thought it would be funny to call it the pot, because point of tangency. Okay. Alright, the next two words on our list are different types of angles. There's two different types of angles, and they're actually already in this picture. Okay. The first one is an angle with the vertex at the center. And so if I look in this picture, I see a couple of angles with their vertex at the center. There's one right here that I can point out. this angle right there is a central angle, which just makes good sense. It's at the center. And so that's angle ACK. And so if you would write over to the side, it'll get sloppy over here if I do it. So you go ahead and write off to the side that ACK is an example of a central angle. Okay, and you'll notice if it's a central angle, then that means those sides are going from the center to the circle. So each side is going to be a radius. So each side is a radius. I'm just going to put an R. Each side is a radius. The inscribed angle is a little bit different. Inscribed angle is going to be an angle with the vertex that's on the actual circle. So an angle with the vertex on the edge of the circle. So if I look at my picture, I'll notice that right here at B, I have an angle. You see that? That means this angle right here is an inscribed angle because B is on the circle and B is the vertex of that angle. Okay, and so go ahead and write yourself down that angle DBK is an inscribed angle. You just write it off to the side there. Now notice if the vertex is on the circle, then that means the sides are actually going to be chords, not radiuses. So this is kind of important because sometimes they might not give us a picture. They're going to tell us that two chords intersect on the circle, and we've got to understand that that's now an inscribed angle. Okay. All right, now the last one I actually accidentally left off of your list, and so you had to write the whole thing in, and that is an arc. It's pretty simple. An arc is just a part of a circle. So there's several arcs on this picture. If I went just, let me change my color here. If I just wanted to talk about between D and B right here, that would be an arc. Okay, I could go from D all the way around to A, almost to A, and that's an arc as well. And so there are a couple different types of arcs, and so we're going to go down here below and look at the different types of arcs in a circle. Okay, so there's three types of arcs, and the first type, I'm going to start with the easiest one, the one that we're most comfortable with. You probably already knew before I ever started, and that's the semicircle. And the semicircle will always equal 180 degrees. 180 degrees. Okay, and so a semicircle, semi we know is like half. Call this A. First of all, I need to know that it's only exactly half a circle if that's passing through the center, which means that this has to be a diameter. Okay, so if AB is a diameter, then this is half my circle, and I would say that arc AE is a semicircle, or AB, excuse me. AB. And this is the way you write it. You put a little arc symbol up above it. Like an upside down smiley face. Okay. If it's a major arc, then it's going to be more than 180 degrees. So it's going to be greater than 180. So more than half the circle. And let's draw an example of that. Okay, well, let's say we've got this angle right here. And we want to talk about this part. Major is big, so that should help you remember which one it is. Okay, it's referring to that big part of my circle. Okay, the thing with the major arc, you see how the semicircle we only use 2 letters? It's because it didn't matter if I went around this way or if I went around that way. It's going to be 180 degrees either way. But this, in order for it to be more than 180, I have to make sure I tell it which way to go. And so you always name these with 3 letters. So I'm going to put a point here. We'll call this W. And some other random point on my circle over here can be X. And then the ending over here is Y. So just like when we do line segments, we have to give the beginning and the ending, but the difference here is we have to tell one in the middle if it matters which way I go. Okay, or excuse me, if it's a major arc. Because if I just told you arc WY, we're going to go the shortest distance, which would be that little bitty one. Okay, so this would be named arc W X Y. and we would put the little symbol up above it. Just pretend that's a Y. Okay, well, if major is more than 180, minor will be less than 180. So that same picture we just had, we're basically looking at the same thing, only I want the other piece. I want the little short piece. Actually, 2 arcs present, because it's what I have, and then the rest of it. And I should know that all that together is going to have to equal 360, because that's the way that's the way circles work. Okay, so this would be arc W, Y. Let me put the little arc symbol over it. Okay. Alright, now off to the side, this is where the real money comes in. Most of the stuff has been vocabulary, and that's really all it is, until we get a little bit further into arcs and angles. But this part is going to have a little bit of math in it. And it's basically, you need to know that there's 2 ways to measure an arc. One of them we actually call arc measure, and that's the kind that I just talked about, where the semicircle was 180 degrees. So the arc measure is going to be measured in degrees, and it's going to be part of the whole circle, so part of the 360. So if you're not sure what it is, but you know it's a fourth of the circle, well, then you know it's a fourth of 360. So that's the reason I'm putting this right here. So sometimes that's what helps us figure it out. Okay. Now, when we call it arc length, length is something like the length of the football field. So that's something that I can measure in like inches or centimeters or feet. Okay. Okay, so it's measured in inches or centimeters, and that's going to be part of your circumference. And I'm just going to put a big capital C. You can write out the whole word. Okay. So the way that we do that, okay, if I know one or the other, we will use a proportion, and it's just simply part over whole. So notice, if I have the arc measure, that degrees, that's out of the 360. That's the whole. Okay. If I've got my arc length, then that's out of the circumference. So if I know my arc measure and I know the circumference, I can find the length. If I know the length and I know the circumference, I can find the measure. The 360 never changes. These other 3 pieces are the pieces that change based on the circle. Okay. So when you get to class on Friday, we're going to be working with this. We're going to have a worksheet where we're going to be working with parts of the circle, and then we're also going to be doing some finding arc length, setting up those proportions and solving. Okay. So this should go in your notebook. You're going to make sure you skip a page for your test. Your test should be ready to give back to you on Friday. And so make sure you skip a page on 25 should be your test. And so this one should actually go on page 27. Okay. All right, see you Friday.